Good morning and welcome to the Ad Hoc Committee on Economic Recovery and Reinvestment. This is a special meeting for Friday, May 29, 2009, and we're here in room 340 of John Ferraro Council Chamber in City Hall. We do have a quorum. Oh, no, sorry, we're one short of a quorum, but we'll begin our meeting nevertheless. We have 3 of our 7 members here, myself, Eric Garcetti, our council members Bernard Parks and Bill Rosendahl, and we are awaiting Ms. Gruhl, Ms. Hahn, and Ms. Perry and Mr. Wesson. So we will have a quorum, I think, shortly, but why don't we go ahead and begin. Do we have any public comment, general public comment? Okay. We'll dispense with that, and if we can take up the first item, please, 1A. Good morning.
Good morning. Jim Clark, Director of Federal Relations. I just wanted to give you a brief report. It's pretty light this week in terms of the agenda that you have. Next week will also be fairly light as well, though we do plan to bring forward to you a strategic plan that we have for the energy efficiency and conservation block grants. This is $37 million $37 million in formula funds that we'll be receiving, and $400 million worth of national competitive funds that we can go after. And part of that plan will also include a community outreach element to it. Those grant applications are due on June 25th, so they will be coming up, but next week we'll share with you the plan. Last week I mentioned that the state had put out some money for a California Green Job Corps training program. This money is available to our workforce investment boards, and they've, in collaboration, I've worked with LA Community College and are putting forth a grant application. So we expect that we'll be receiving some green job training money that will be coming through our workforce investment board and the community college. So we're very pleased about that as well. We also received notice.
Just on that, what sort of green job training are we looking at? The Apollo Alliance type of construction jobs? Or
it's 16 to 24-year-olds. So it's generally training in things like energy, weatherization, energy retrofitting, solar panel kinds of things like that.
So mostly in the building trades area,
right?
Okay.
We're also pleased to note too that we just received a letter that the mayor received from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency notifying us of an award that they have given to us for $200,000 for brownfield remediation for the South Los Angeles wetlands area.
Great.
So we're very pleased to hear about that too. We'll be having more information on that for you.
The Southland wetlands.
Sure. Area. Let me ask Beth Gines to come forward with the Environmental Affairs Department.
I feel about the wetlands. We have some beautiful wetlands in the 11th District. Bayona Creek goes through there, Bayona Wetlands.
She's the project.
It's a significant interest to all of us, especially when we talk about the water quality and all the issues affecting nature. Please. Morning.
Good morning. Beth Gines from Environmental Affairs Department. And with me is Nuna Tersabashian, which is actually the project manager for this particular project. This is the conversion of a MTA train yard type area into wetlands. And of course, wetlands are very beneficial for providing an interface between the ocean and the contaminated
Where
runoff.
is this piece of land?
South LA, it's CD9.
CD9, can you describe it a little bit?
It's
You can pull the mic to you.
It's an MTA yard. It's in negotiation. They're purchasing, City of Los Angeles purchasing from MTA, and they will be contributing $900,000 additional to clean up. So this $200,000 will be help to. It's a big project. It's going to be over $1 million of cleanup, including groundwater remediation as well.
I might suggest you take a look at a piece of land. It's on Main Street in Venice. That is an MTA lot that has been a service lot. MTA over the years has been wanting to get out of there. And of course, I want them out of there because I'd like to take that land and I'd like to create a significant amount of affordable housing. So if you could take a look at that, we've been in discussions for years, and
that's great.
As leadership has changed in MTA, I think it's time now for us to be more aggressive on that particular piece of land. My dream would be that we could move MTA out, we could mitigate the obvious piece of land, clean it up, and go for a local improvement area and actually create affordable housing.
That's what we're trying to do, so we'll take a closer look at it.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Switching seats.
While Beth was here, I wanted to really commend the great job that the Environmental Affairs Department did in coordinating the submissions last week for the Clean Cities Petroleum Reduction grants. That coordinating, we had 10 applications altogether from 4 departments, EAD, Bureau of Sanitation, the Port, and General Services. And that was a great job, a number of those grants were relying upon funding from the California Energy Commission, and we just received indication from the CEC this week that they are going to provide $3.4 million in matching funds toward our grants. So it looks like...
You're going to say the opposite, that they just informed us that the state is not spending anything on anyone.
Right. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is we're sort of a little bit of in a lull here as we're going to have some big project like the energy efficiency and what's called Tiger, the big transportation thing coming up in the next several weeks. But we're kind of in a lull right now, but we're starting now to receive the grant awards, and we have 2 of those on the agenda today. Yep. So that's nice to know that we're actually starting to receive that. And what we want to do in the future for you is any grant awards that come in where they've been a result of one of these applications, we'll attach the one-pager to it so that you'll have that to know that this relates to something that the committee looked at. But all of those grant awards as they come in will come before the committee before they go to the council.
Absolutely. Great.
And that's my report, and I can turn it over to Bill.
Okay, thank you. Morning.
Good morning, Bill Kreitz. That's a perfect segue for me is the one-pagers. I was talking a little earlier this morning with Mr. Parks. There have been a number of recommendations from this committee on improving that one-pager and helping to solicit more information from the departments for this ad hoc committee. As a result, we have now revised that one-pager to now it's a 3-pager with a couple of sample pages, so it's 5 pages when the departments go onto the web. So you will begin to see next week a 3-page one-pager that will contain much more information about the cost breakdowns, and the matching amounts. And I hopefully that will be more beneficial to you in terms of making your decisions and reviewing the grant requests. The other thing is that, speaking of awards, we have worked on an expedited CAO report for bringing awards to this committee. And so we have that pretty much as a prototype. We're going to run that by the CLA's office to see if that's sufficient for this committee. And so you should begin to see some awards coming through this committee very shortly in more of an expedited fashion, but with the information that you require to make a decision.
Great. Thank you.
The next item is there have been 15 grants applied for since this committee met last Friday. The majority of those you have seen the one-pagers on. There are a couple for DWP, I believe, that you'll be looking at today. So far, as of today, the city has submitted 45 grant applications requesting a total of $479 million. And there will be, as far as my records show, there will be no grant applications submitted this week between now and next Friday's committee.
Sorry, just to, you said 15 first and then 45. 15 have been...
15 have been submitted since last Friday's ad hoc committee. Yes, in the intervening 7 days.
Gotcha.
But a total of 45
Thank
applications have been submitted to date.
Okay. All right. Why don't we have the DWP folks come forward? And my understanding, we don't really have any documentation for the DWP ones, or we just...
We need the whole table. We need the whole table. Bring it through.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad, thanks.
Good.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Thank you.
My name is Joe Avila. I'm the assistant to the general manager of the Department of Water and Power. With me are the folks who actually do the work for the ERA team at the Department of Water and Power. We've assembled a team of experts from each one of the service divisions, water, power, and joint. And over the last 2 months, they've been busy preparing a number of grant applications, documents, and other administrative materials as well for the city in response to the ERA program. In looking at the agenda, I wanted to apologize in advance for not getting our one pages. As you heard, it got revised recently, and we're working with the mayor's office to come up with a workaround that will enable us to try to provide your materials in a more timely fashion. So I wanted to apologize in advance on that. If you don't mind, I'd like to start with the first project that's on the agenda. As I said, I brought the individuals who are actually responsible for preparing the various grant applications, and they have the granular level detail information that I think will be helpful for this council committee. Let's go ahead and start with A, and I think Ms. Hiroka. Heidi Hiroka is one of the two people who are responsible, our team leads for ERA on the water side. So, Heidi?
Are they on?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm sorry. We are in the process of submitting 2 grants through the Bureau of Reclamation, Department of Interior, Water Marketing and Efficiency Challenge. The first project is it's called the Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. We normally call it SCADA, and it's a control. It's the controls that basically are used to open and close the gates for like letting the water flow out in the aqueduct. And so this project that we submitted is to get money to make that SCADA system more efficient. Right now there are some manual controls that are being done that we'd like to turn into automated. We would like to automate it, and with that the water will be able to be used more efficiently, and there would be a savings there. We won't put water out before it's needed, so we won't have losses due to evaporation. And the dollar amount that we're asking for is about $2.2 million.
And the savings is primarily in water, not in labor?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I mean, are there any individuals doing manual tasks that will become automated to capture any savings there?
No.
Okay. Anybody on 1A?
Just a quick question.
Yeah, Ms. Berry?
Just a quick question on submitting the materials. What can we do to support you so that we don't have a continuous failure to submit materials to the committee?
I take full responsibility for that, Ms. Berry. We've submitted materials. Apparently they were not satisfactory, and I think we're on our third, sounds like our fourth iteration of the one-pagers. The team members that you see before you are not dedicated to this activity solely at the Department of Water and Power. They volunteered to be part of the ERA team. I'm the team lead, and all of us have other duties within the department, so I made the call in order to make sure that we didn't miss deadlines. I had a choice of filling out multiple versions of the one-pager or having them fill out the applications in a timely fashion. So I made the call. The mayor's office and council have been kind enough to offer some other resources, and I think we're going to try to come up with a workaround where we can provide. We have been providing materials in the same format that the mayor's office gave us in terms of the detailed project material in electronic forms. So we're going to try to refine that in order to provide the information necessary to fill out the forms, and hopefully we can find some resources within the city. They've been volunteered to us. I think we're going to go ahead and take them up on that so that our staff can continue to focus on getting the grant applications done.
Okay, when are you going to activate this wraparound process to back yourself
We just
up?
got the offer this last week to get some resources, so we're going to look at that. I talked to Ramel last night, and we're going to talk about how we can utilize those resources for helping us get the one-pagers done.
Okay,
So this
and
team
that's
is
something, actually, well, maybe what I'll do, since this is going to be an ongoing process,
Yes.
is bring that part into the committee so you can talk about it on the record.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll work. It's just like I said. I mean, we have so many hours in the day.
Well, no, I want to
And-
support you, but, we want to make sure that we get the documentation that we
Understand.
need to make informed votes. So why don't I do that?
Terrific. Thank you,
Okay,
ma'am.
thanks.
And is there any match required for this grant?
There is. There's a 50% match.
How much?
50%
And those funds are coming from where?
DWP.
But I mean, are they new funds within DWP that we're looking at in the existing budget? Is that additional?
Existing budget.
So that satisfies the matching funds. We would have been spending money on this already, or?
Right. It would reduce the amount that it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we planned on spending about 3.3 million initially out of just the regular budget. Now we're
Right. What it's doing is if we get the grant funding, then we can do it sooner. Otherwise, it gets stretched out over a longer period of time.
all right. Great. Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, explain to me again what the grants are that you're going for. Again, look at the paper, as Ms. Perry was saying there. We're looking at a little over $3 million. Is that what we're looking at getting? And specifically, what is it for?
It's called a Water Marketing and Efficiency Grants. It's through the Bureau of Reclamation, and it's basically looking for water use efficiency projects. So projects that, water conservation type projects, where there's an ability to capture or reduce the amount of water that's being used in large amounts.
Well, obviously, this is key to us. We're the desert, and we've got the millions of people here. Do you have a specific sensing of the projects you're talking about? Where and what?
So the two projects that we have identified that fit the criteria, it's this one, which is the SCADA project. So it's to make the water controls more efficient, so we can spread water at the right time, not overnight and extra water. And then the second one that's on the agenda it's a canal lining project. So it's basically the aqueduct. There's areas of the aqueduct where the lining has been, I don't know what the right word, it's not removed, but it's just gone. And so we need to deteriorated. So what we need to do is basically stop the water in the canal, reline it with new lining, and then the water that's lost through absorption or infiltration will now be, stay in the canal.
Are you getting any sensing? I'm just curious on this because, we were going to do a parcel tax, and then we were thinking of a county tax, and we're looking at Measure O, and we're looking at the ongoing maintenance of Measure O, and we're looking at the city's legal obligations on the coast for clean water. We're already theoretically in violation of those laws. We pulled back on our potential partial tax. The county and the city haven't gotten together on percentages, so we're sitting there. Is there any opportunities in these monies to assist us in cleaning up our water so that when it goes into the ocean, we're in a better state than we are presently today? That's a big issue for us.
Not under the Bureau of not under this grant opportunity in Bureau of Reclamation.
Yeah.
There may be some in the clean water, but I know that the Bureau of Sanitation is also looking at that program as well. So.
Well, because it's important to us right now. We're looking at $100 million a year, bluntly, is what the city needs to spend on continuing to maintain all of its projects of Measure O and to get further in compliance with the requirements of us being a watershed. And with our 900,000 parcels of land out of 2.1 million, we're a major player in this. And this is a huge, significant issue. We cannot get our act together to put it on the ballot right now, but we do have a tremendous need for funds to clean up our water as it flushes into the ocean. So I'm just curious where we are, what we think is going on, and what kind of federal funding support we could get.
Yeah, I'm Catherine Rubin from the Wastewater Quality at the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and we are looking into those types of grant funding opportunities. And we have applied for two major opportunities. One is our Crowley Lake quagga mussel mitigation project, where the fencing, we're asking for money to help us put fencing around Crowley Lake and also have outreach programs with people that bring their boats to Crowley Lake to try to mitigate the mussel mitigation, which causes a lot of water quality problems in that whole basin area. We're also asking for money for the Owens Valley Land Management project, which will also help us with the degradation of the water quality in that watershed and the preservation of the water life and habitat.
My suggestion is that you talk to some of the other fellows within the operation here who were desperately pushing us to put something on the ballot, which timing wasn't appropriate. That roughly is $100 million worth of commitments we as a city need to make to really get our act together so that we are in full compliance with the federal standards of our discharge into the ocean. And there are projects that are ready. There are folks that are wanting the funds, and I think we could transfer some of the same energy we were about to use to go on the ballot into this whole mix of issues with you there. Maybe it's possible we could do something. Can we get a report back on that? Sort of a sensing of that?
We'll have to check on this, Councilman. I'm not sure it falls under our
I think Bureau of Sanitation.
umbrella. I think
Maybe
so.
it's Bureau of Sanitation.
Yes, sir. I think I'm trying to think of a delicate way. We handle the water pre-digestion, and the water post-digestion is the other fellow. So, we clean the water before you drink it. And so I'm not sure that this falls under our bailiwick, but we'll look at it, sir.
We handle those discharges through MPDS, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permits, from our activities from construction projects, and also when we have to hydrostatic our lines, and also anything that we use for processed wastewater through our coastal generating plants or hydro plants. So if it's a wastewater from making power or distributing water, like when we need to flush our potable water lines, we deal with that. And so we do deal with TMDLs.
You do?
We do. And all of those issues. So we can certainly look into that.
Great. Well, thank you.
And we can certainly communicate to sanitation along the coastline, those pieces as well. Let's go to 1B. Just colleagues, number 4 is going to be the big one that we're discussing today, so I want to make sure that we have room for about 20 minutes at least of discussion before council starts on number 4, just to kind of give you a timeline. But let's go through 1B and 1C as well.
So 1B was also under the same water marketing and efficiency program, and this project is a canal lining project. That's what I had mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. There's about 3.7 miles or 3.8 miles of aqueduct that have been identified as being requiring realignment.
Okay.
And so,
what's the amount for this?
It's about $2.5 million and a $5 million project.
And so the match is 100% match?
No, I'm sorry. The match is the 50%.
Oh, it's 50%.
So it's 50%. So it's
2.5.
about 2.5 is what we're seeking in grants.
And if it's a $5 million project, we're going to be paying 2.5, but of that 1.25 qualifies for the match. Is that what you mean by 50%?
Yes. Wait,
or
say that again.
Is the match 100%?
So the match is 2.5 and our share would be 2.5.
Okay, so it's a 100% match. Okay, so 50% of the overall project is match funds?
Yes, thank you.
So 100% is required. All right. Any questions on the canal?
This is going to be done by our crews. Yeah.
It maintains
Stimulate
them.
the economy?
Maintains.
No. Okay.
Well, these are, I think, are very specific category ones that the federal government put forward on water quality.
Just asking.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You'll hear that in CDBG in a second, too. Let's go to the last one, then 1C, the Clean Cities.
The Clean Cities grant we applied for, there was 2 sections of that. There was the AB 118 through the California Energy Commission, and we did apply for that on May 8th, where we asked them for $8 million. We did receive a letter of acceptance from them if we are successful in getting funded by the Department of Energy's, the federal portion of it, which is that grant application is due today, and we are applying for that for $9 million. So the total grant monies that we're asking for is $17 million. That's $8 million from the state and $9 million from the feds.
And what does it do?
I'm sorry?
And what would it do?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
We don't have any of the documentation. So
I'm sorry about that. It's to purchase on-road and off-road alternative fuel vehicles, to do our charging station upgrades, heavy-duty diesel hybrid conversions, and CNG fueling infrastructure.
So that includes electric car charging stations?
It includes to purchase battery electric vehicles, 200 cars, and to also do the conversion of 70 Priuses.
To become plug-in hybrids?
Yes, to become a plug-in.
What are we looking at for the fleet vehicles, the other 200, the pure EVs? What kind of vehicles are those, the 200?
Oh, the battery electric vehicles.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, what type are they?
What are those? Yeah.
I believe they were sedans.
But do you know which company they are?
Yeah, they were sedans. I can get back to you on that.
Okay.
Yeah, the breakdown of it. I'm sorry, we didn't bring the specifics with us.
This is a pretty critical one, and you're submitting it today, you said?
Yes, we're submitting today.
Because I don't know about other council members, but I've been approached a lot. Maybe it's because I drive an electric car and have for a long time, but I think they've been lobbying other folks too, that there's a lot of companies right now. There's a lot of companies right now that are looking at a charging infrastructure. We have a paddle-based system from the past, and there's some companies that are just plug-ins, but the plug-in, normal plug, but some are 240, some are 110. I just had a company come yesterday that's looking at electric motorcycles, actually, and they kind of said, who's taking the lead on this stuff? And I said, in the past it's been DWP. That unit was kind of, taken apart and is being reconstructed right now. Is there a long-term departmental strategy for that charging infrastructure, and how does this fit into that goal? Because I'd hate for us to get that money and have one protocol in there and other protocols emerge as the ones that are the industry standard.
Right. This includes the upgrade of the plug-in infrastructures as well.
So take the existing stations that are in malls and in the airport, in public facilities and other places, and convert those, or give the option for also a 3-plug prong, or do we know exactly what that means?
We're looking at all of that, Mr. Chair. Actually, the new deputy mayor has come in and asked us to reinvigorate the program that he had started a few years ago, and so we're going to be using this money to look at exactly that, not only the vehicles but also all the infrastructure, and get it up to speed so that people with the new technologies can in fact use our infrastructure.
Is the grant general enough for us to be able to determine some of that post-acceptance? Or did we already put in, my only question is, did we put into the grant application a specific
I think it allows for quite a bit of flexibility, and it seems
protocol
to cover all the areas that we have experience with this sort of thing, having done it a few years ago. So I think these folks leveraged that experience and made sure that whatever funding we may need based on the previous investments would be covered by the new grant.
I'd love a briefing from the folks that are looking at that and see if we can add our input there and help you out with that. Okay?
Terrific. Thank you.
Other questions on the Petroleum Reduction Technologies Program? Yes, Mr. Parks?
I just want to ask the CAO is just to remind us, are other departments applying for this same money? Or is this, okay, same grant? Because I think we had general services come through before.
So they're not just DWP fleet vehicles, they're also citywide?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. This is part of the Clean Cities Coalition, which we're
Be careful.
Which were
take your time.
Which were the 4 departments that came to you last week with the grant applications.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Rosendahl or Ms. Hahn? Okay. All right, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll look forward to a timely, thank you for accepting the blame, and we look forward to it being better next time. We can go to the Department of Aging ones, numbers 2 and 3. Some good news, some acceptance of money.
That's right.
Not that we don't like applying, but we like accepting even more. So, good morning.
Good morning. James Down, Department of Aging. The first item we have is the acceptance of $455,577 for senior employment training. This is essentially a follow-up from the application report we submitted to the ad hoc committee earlier in the month. We were awarded this amount. As we had presented earlier, we're targeting these new enrollees for healthcare, green jobs, and on the family source centers in conjunction with CDD and their Workforce Investment Act. We're asking for authority to accept the grant and submit our standard agreement with the state.
So in the most kind of straightforward English, we're going to be training seniors to get jobs in healthcare jobs, green jobs, and could you maybe describe what that means? And these works, the family source centers are not yet set up; they're in the process of. So, what exactly would seniors be doing?
In terms of the work source centers, that's something that we still have to develop with CDD.
Is it the work source or the family source centers?
I'm sorry. We actually have seniors already in the work source centers where they assist with seniors that are coming in to look for employment. The family source centers, my understanding is that they would be helping families apply for various programs and services, including such things as weatherization assistance. And so we'll be working with CDD in providing training to them to help families sign up. I would expect that based on our prior training that it will be assisting families either completing the application, so they'll be trained in office skills such as using computers, basic office training, receptionists, and so forth. In terms of health care, I believe in our previous report, we talked about White Memorial. In the past, we've had training groups sent for certified nursing assistants. That's a big growth area. We also are going to target child care. Currently, we have enrollees placed with Rec and Parks child care centers. And so that's another opportunity for us to expand and our coordination with Rec and Parks.
So it's both training and direct provision of actual jobs as well?
It's training. It's not really jobs. They get a stipend, much like the way, if you think of an intern, the stipend kind of covers their cost that's associated with their job training. It's not really meant to be a wage, so it doesn't really count.
So they're
as a
training
job.
in the city facilities to then go and take those skills into someplace else for a permanent job? Okay, gotcha. And the green jobs, what are green jobs for seniors? What do those look like?
Again, that's what we'll be coordinating with CDD on. The closest that we currently have, really, I would cite Goodwill Industries in the refurbishment of computers and basically diversion of used goods from landfills to be reused.
Great. Any other questions, colleagues, on two? Yes, Mr. Rosendahl.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How many seniors are we talking about that might be fresh additions today because of $455,577?
39 slots.
39 slots. It creates the slots?
Yes.
This money creates the slots. And then that senior, what are their requirements to be eligible for those 39 slots?
I'm going to let Charles Babby, our program manager.
Please, go ahead, Charles. Good morning.
Good morning. There's 4 basic requirements that are minimum to get into the program. It's 55 and older, city resident, within 125% of the Health and Human Services poverty level, and unemployed. So when they come into the program, they have to be unemployed at the time of entry and while they're in the program. It's designed as a transition from unemployment to employment. That's our goal. We wish we could say we got 100% of our seniors employed by the time they left the program. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of barriers that we try to overcome, and not the least of which is age discrimination. But we do our best to try and help disadvantaged seniors move on.
Okay, so it's 39 seniors we're talking about that will be eligible for this. How long of a program is it for them, and what kind of a compensation does a senior get that might be watching this program that's 55? I don't consider 55 a senior. I'm 64, but I will admit that we have a lot of people unemployed who are in their 50s and 60s, and I dare say in their 70s who need to be employed. But go ahead.
The stimulus program will only last to June 30th of 2010, unfortunately. So those that enter under this ARA program will only be in the program for 1 year approximately, a little over 1 year if we can get the other money.
And if you get that in the 39 of them, how much money would each person be getting, or what kind of support would they be getting during that period of time?
They get the $8 per hour as California minimum wage for their stipend, for their expenses. They are allowed to have, when they come into our program, it's a little bit more liberal as far as our determination of eligibility. So if they have Social Security or a small pension, that's okay. We don't exclude that. Some of the other government programs are quite strict in that regard.
Okay, if I was watching this and I'm one of those folks who would desperately like to get in touch with you right now, what would they do? How would they contact you?
They could call our office. One of my staff or myself would talk to them personally. We'd explain the program. It's not for everyone, but for many of them it is.
2 quick questions. Give us your phone number.
Sure. It's, our front desk is 213-252-4000, and just ask for the Title V division. and they'll get someone who can help them out.
Could I also get a fact sheet on this, which I would like to give to my community folks, various senior groups and others, that they could become aware that this program exists? I think we should get the word out as quickly as we can.
Sure, absolutely. We can do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Parks?
I'm just concerned on the item 2, and I think the frustration we have to think about, if we train people and there's no commitment for employment, it's just a minor kind of bump that they get by or the stipend, and it would appear with the workforce centers and particularly city employment that we're talking about, that we should have more of a smaller circle to say there's at least a commitment for, out of these 200, a commitment that a portion of them are going to get employment, because that's what this whole deal is. It's not a stipend for a short time. And the last thing we want to do is what we've done for years, is train people and tell them, okay, you've trained, let's get the next group in, and we don't see where it takes them. And I would just like to see that we tighten that up, particularly with the workforce centers or city jobs, that we make a commitment that some of these 200 are going to be given a job. Otherwise, why train them? You know, and in seniors, I think we have to look at them differently than young kids coming out of school, where you can do an intern and they're trying to figure out what they want to do. Seniors are in a position that they need a job. I mean, they don't need just to be trained and sent back where they are. And so that's what we need to tighten up and see how we can close that loop and say, 50% of them will get a job, or 20% or something, to make it worth their while to go through the training, or make it worth our while to spend $500,000.
Right. Typically in our regular program, and before we actually place a senior at a site, whether it be a government site or a nonprofit, we ask if there is that possibility that they will be hired, and Charles Group does monitor that. And so essentially they know, based on past practice, which host sites have a habit of actually hiring when they have the ability. So we kind of focus follow-up placements within those sites, because it's to our benefit as well as to the seniors.
Could we make it as part of the requirement to be designated as a host site, that they make a commitment to hire people?
I would love that if we could have.
Try. I mean, it seems like if we're going to spend the money, we're helping them as a host site. It would appear that they would leverage that and make some commitment of employment.
Yeah, we can go ahead and try and put that. We'll put that as a requirement in, and see what type of agreements we can arrange.
And I don't think we're unrealistic to say it's got to be 100%, but I'd hate to see us train 200 people, and when the money runs out, there's 200 people saying, what do you want to train me on next? Because I need another stipend. I mean, the issue is for them to transfer into a job.
Right. We'll make that part of the negotiations before we place someone under this program.
You can give additional points or something, that way it's not, you can give additional points or something. It's not a requirement in case we can't get 100% compliance, but it would give incentive for that.
Okay.
All right. I will move number 2 to accept that grant if there's no objection. That will be the order of the committee. Number 3.
The next item is a request to accept $1.1 million in nutrition funds. Unlike the previous item, no application was submitted. This essentially was a formula grant where the California Department of Aging received its federal share and then notified us of our share. The guidance from CDA for the use of these funds is mainly to provide, to restore meal services, to restore hours of service, and where possible, expand to meet the increasing need for senior meal services. And so we're basically taking this money and allocating it to our existing nutrition providers. We've suffered about 147,000 reduction in the past year in state funding for home delivered meals, and I think about another 97,000 in dining center meals, plus a 10% increase in our total cost. So this will go a long ways to covering all of that.
Gotcha. Okay. Seems straightforward. Any questions on the nutrition grant acceptance? Not, I'll move that as well. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate it. If we can take up item 4, please. And that will be in council colleagues as well, so. Do we have anyone here for item 4? Yep.
Did we talk about the nutritional program at all? Because that was,
Yeah, it was just a formula grant that we got that will restore some of the existing programs that we have, basically.
okay, so we already know the pipeline where that money will go
Yeah,
in.
it's an existing one. They said it had been cut a little bit by other things in the state. This will restore some of it.
So this means seniors will be able to get a more nutritional
Yep.
meal with $1,113,046.
Exactly. That's
Okay,
exactly
great.
right. Okay, thank you. Just awaiting the Community Development Department. Okay, colleagues, this is $19,258,184 in Community Development Block Grant funds as part of ERA. It's in addition to our usual block grant allocation. And we have the Mayor's Office and Community Development Department here to discuss this. This was heard in the Housing, Community, and Economic Development Committee earlier this week. Good morning.
Good morning. Rhonda Gaston, Mayor's Office of Housing and Economic Opportunity.
David Esparza, Assistant General Manager, Community Development Department.
Thank you. What's provided this morning for your consideration and necessary action are the recommendations from the Mayor to deploy the Community Development Block Grant funding awarded to the city under ARA. As the President just said, the total award is $19.26 million. In regulations released earlier this month, I believe it was May 6th, HUD strongly urged CDBG-R grantees to program the funds consistent with the legislative intent of ARA. As you may be aware, CDBG can be broadly used, but they're asking us to more narrowly define that to hard development and emphasize job creation and preservation through infrastructure activities. To ensure that we met that criteria, the Mayor convened a working group comprised of representatives of his office, the council, CLA, CAO, and the Community Development Department, and the Mayor charged that team to develop the program priorities and develop the funding recommendations you have before you. The recommendations provide a mix of economic development, total allocation of about 40% of the funds go into that category, housing, community improvement, and public services that will increase the city's capacity to assist individuals and families hardest hit by the current economic climate. The city's application is due to HUD on June 5th. As part of the submission requirements, the city had to undertake a public participation process. A 7-day public comment period was required. This culminated last Wednesday with a community hearing that was held at the Echo Park Library. There was a good turnout of residents and community organizations that not only commented on the proposed budget, but also spoke to the need for additional funding for community-based work. The CDD is in the process of collating and summarizing those comments and will provide them to the council and also post them on the city's recovery website as required by the program guidelines. Currently, CDD is undergoing a review process for all of the line items. We weren't given very much time in order to prepare a budget. Again, the regulations were released on the 6th, and we need to finalize the entire budget by the end of this month. They're trying to determine an appropriate methodology for calculating a reasonable number of jobs for each line item in terms of the city's investment in particular projects. What was handed out this morning, and I hope all of the members have it, was a revised listing of the proposed funding line items, and we've updated the jobs related to that. This is about the 5th iteration of that document. It continues to evolve as more information becomes available to the department. I'm sure David will share more information on that process in just a minute. But what I want to point out to you is that in that document, you'll see that mainly the job creation is demonstrated in the economic development category, which is not uncommon for CDBG. The normal public benefit tests that HUD requires of the city in terms of creating jobs, which means for every $35,000 that we would expend in CDBG, we'd have to create one job. That requirement has been waived. However, HUD still expects the city to come in with a reasonable number of jobs, and that's what CDD is working toward with CRA. However, if we were to use that calculation for this program, the number of jobs that would be required for the city's $19.2 million is 551. As you can see on the document before you, the city stands to realize about 2,500 permanent jobs, exceeding the regular CDBG requirement by some 354%. Those numbers may change up or down a little depending on the final outcome of CDD's review, but we wanted to make sure that the committee was aware that that document will continue to evolve until we do the final submission to HUD. Within the public services category, we anticipate temporary employment gains for youth and young adults, and also in the long term expect to target underemployed and underserved areas of the cities by generating job opportunities through the City Works Academy and First Source Hiring Program. Similarly, a number of construction-related job opportunities are anticipated within the housing category. Notwithstanding all of the job needs, the mayor recognizes the impact of the recession goes well beyond rising unemployment. The demand for public services has increased, and intuitively, I would say that the level of persons living below poverty is also increasing. So to the extent that we could address some of those related needs, the working group, together with the mayor's office, put forward some recommendations that would not actually generate jobs, but would go forward in assisting families through obstacles that they may have as a result of the recession. Included is providing rental assistance to qualified homeless persons by leveraging the ESG program that's going to be managed by LASA. Under the LASA program, they're only allowed to target very low-income families or folks that are at or below 50% AMI. By blending those dollars with CDBG, we'll be able to expand the eligibility and assist persons with income up to 80% AMI. Additionally, we're looking to coordinate foreclosure prevention service delivery in the city and provide information and referral to residents who unfortunately are close to or may have already lost their homes. And this is an expansion of the program began under the city's NSP program and hopefully will be further leveraged if the housing department is successful in its competitive application. However, to accomplish all of the things that we want to do under public services, the city must request a waiver of the 15% expenditure limit that's normally within the CDBG program, and instead request that there be an allowance for a rate of 25% under this program. This policy change would allow the city to expend $4.8 million rather than $2.9, an increase of about 65% in that particular category. On Wednesday, when we appeared before HCED, I intended to bring the message to members that there was a slight chance that the waiver would not be granted. However, I think that may have been interpreted by some as that there was no opportunity for the waiver. That is not the case. I'd like to underscore that the mayor will make the request to the HUD secretary, but again, it's quite possible that that would not be granted. If that is the case, in the mayor's transmittal to the council, he suggested that the CDD report back immediately to both his office and to the council, and that we reconvene the working group to determine how to best reallocate those funds within the economic development category for projects that are shovel-ready and can deliver maximum job opportunities to our communities.
And on the economic development front, what is the timeline that these projects have to qualify, and is there a backup for, as we've experienced many years with block grant economic development projects? Some actually say they're ready and are ready, and others say they're ready and have unforeseen delays. What is that timeline, and if we don't hit the timeline with some of them, do we have a series of backup projects or other things that we're looking at?
According to the HUD guidance, they've suggested a program goal of the projects being ready to be initiated 120 days after the funds become available to the city. Assuming that the city's application goes forward in June and HUD responds and approves that plan in July, we'd have to have projects ready to go and dig dirt by November and actually be completed by September 30th, 2012. CDD is in the process of ensuring that all the line items in the budget actually meet that criteria. The working group that came together to determine those actually looked at all of the economic development projects that are on the table at the city to determine those that best met that criteria. CDD is, again, just trying to verify that that is indeed the case. But we would, if any of those projects do not prove to meet the implementation timeline required, we would have the working group look to have substitute projects come forward, and we would bring that back to committee.
Thank you. Yes, and colleagues, since we're about 4 minutes before, and we're going to have this in council, we'll go up to the hour, and then I think we'll cut off for the council meeting, and we'll be taking this up again in council. So go ahead, Ms. Hahn.
Okay, this is one of those issues, colleagues, and I know we didn't want to get into, divvying up these dollars, but that's where we're at, and this is what it's about. And I guess my first very quick question, and then I'll follow up on it, is how did you allocate the dollar amount to each project?
It was depending upon the request from the proponents of the projects. They actually came in with a request and a budget attached to it. We then asked our team, CDD underwriting team, as well as CRA, to prove up those budgets. If we weren't able to determine that there were sufficient costs associated with the request, we scaled back on particular projects and increased
And here's what I'm going to tell you, colleagues, and if you guys can help me figure this out, it would be huge for South Los Angeles. There's a project called Lancet, which has been on the books, according to Bernard Park, since John Gibson. It, according to your own numbers, will create 360 jobs in South Los Angeles. It'll create light industrial. This is exactly what we want to do. We requested 1.75 that would complete this project. It would be one of the greatest stimulus to the economy in South Los Angeles that I can actually remember. But for you to bump up back to the 1.75, which we asked for, and was scaled back, you can see where I'm going. It's going to have to take from some of the other projects. But I just don't see how we can look each other in the eye when we're talking about creating jobs and stimulating the economy and not maybe massage this a little bit and look at the ones that are not creating the jobs and see if there was any way we could get Lancet back up to the 1.75, which we requested. That will complete it. It's ready to go. It's shovel ready. This is a project that I think, again, I remember when Mark Ridley Thomas left here, he willed it over to me in the redistricting and said, you've got to complete this project. This is one of those that I think is the poster child for the economic stimulus dollars. It's shovel ready. It will create light industrial, 360 jobs, stimulate the economy, but I would have to have everybody's willingness to maybe massage this list to see if we could get back up to the 1.75 that we requested.
Well, this is part of the issue here. We talked about this in HCD as well. I mean, there's different types of jobs here as well. There's different projects that have had many subsidies in the past. Lancet's one of them. West Angeles is one of them. We've looked at a number of these projects, and sometimes, we've also had the promise in the past, all we need is another $1 million and it's ready to go. So some of what we look at, obviously, in these jobs, there's also a couple of things here that may not come through, and I know Ms. Perry wanted to speak on the rail car manufacturing, for instance. We don't know whether that's hanging by a thread, whether or not MTA will have that contract or not. They punted that, and that's $1 million there.
This is about local hire. I mean, 360 good jobs.
So,
I would like to move that we could amend this report and see if we couldn't bump the Lancet project back up to where we requested, which was 1.75. We got backup material. We know that this is the money that can complete this
Because
project.
it is zero sum, I would ask that if you do that, then you would say where it comes from.
Yeah, I know. I was going to ask. I don't want to. I'm not going to take it.
Right, no, I mean, not right.
I don't have another project on here.
Yep.
So.
But let's hold on that, and we can work on that also between now and the full council. Mr. Rosendahl?
Yeah, just a quick comment. Ms. Hahn isn't the only one who feels an advocacy role for her constituents. I have the same, obviously, one. And we've had great support from Larry Frank and Meg Barkley of our two different departments. They've sat in the room, Ms. Hahn, over the $19 million. There's $4 million I need for Lincoln Place. I can get my tenants back in. I can rehab all those buildings. We can get that behind us. It's incredible affordable housing. It's jobs. It's awesome. But once again, we, like you, are not on this list. So we'll see where we go. I think there were like $100 million worth of requests for the $19 million.
Yeah, I know.
That's how serious
I
it
know.
is. And we as a great city should be getting more. But I just want to thank those folks for helping me with Lincoln Place. But we would like that same support you do. So you and I can fight together.
Right.
But we might have to find other pots
Right.
of money to do it in.
Right. Or could we just ask the CAO to just maybe look at this list again and come back with any possible suggestion on how to get Lancet back to the 1.75 that we requested?
We're going to have, I think, also some information this week from the state on the housing. If you look at this one, the housing one, whether the TOD stuff qualifies. So we may have some additional money if things don't there. So that's a place to,
So,
at least on the housing.
just a recommendation. Again, it would be the will of this committee, certainly. But I would like to make that request.
Okay, Mr. Park?
Yes, Mr. Park.
Let me just ask, how quickly do you think we'll hear back on the 15 to 25% debate? Because we've asked that question tons of times and we've gotten rejected.
I'm not sure of the timing on that. I would defer to our Liger team to actually speak, but my understanding is the mayor is having the conversation with the secretary, and we're also backing that up with a letter request. But the conversations back in D.C. are ongoing right now.
So we
But
won't.
Diego may
It's not a
want to add to
formal,
that.
there's no deadline for it. It's a person-to-person contact. We also have some contact with the housing secretary and can supplement that as well with the mayor's.
So the likelihood this package will move forward without that information.
It may go through HUD without the actual waiver being granted, which is the caution that I gave earlier. And if that's the case, we would want to amend the package to move money to economic development.
You know, I would just like to ask this and support Ms. Hahn on this and that. And looking at Lancet, it really is at the center of three districts that are in significant poverty, lack of jobs, and a variety of things. And it's only been 30 years since we've talked about Lancet. And it's one of those things that another $700,000 to put 300 people to work permanently would be a great investment. In fact, I think it's something that all of us would jump at. And we don't have a dog in the fight because we have no projects. But we certainly would support her effort in getting that additional money.
And just to clarify, if your estimate is 300 with 1 million, are there actually 300 jobs with 1 million?
I would defer to the CDD underwriting team.
This project, the market area is very weak and the rents are very low. Therefore, conventional financing amount is very small. We do have approval for $6 million 108 and $950,000 Betty grant. However, during next 5 years,
108 is a grant.
the underground waters of this site are contaminated, needs to be remediated, and that cost over $1 million. So that's absorbing a significant portion of the grant that we have received. The project without additional subsidy, gap funding, is not feasible. $6 million 108 loan is an actual loan. We can subordinate to a first mortgage, but the amount of the loan we can get on this project is very small. This project requires a substantial amount of gap, and we have calculated that at 1.75, close to 2 million, in fact. As far as the job creation, the 6 million.
Just to stop there, if you get $1 million, do we create 0 jobs in your opinion? If we allocate just 1 million and not 1.75, do we actually do anything?
We'll do good, of course, because the project can be built in components. Instead of building all 9 buildings at the same time, we can build 3 buildings, 4 buildings, and we can do project. But the project will not finish.
Gotcha.
Will not be a comprehensive project.
1.75 will finish it.
I hope I have answered the question.
Yeah, Ms. Perry?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I asked about this item at Wednesday's HCED committee and wanted to follow up since MTA board considered it yesterday, and it's the item involving Ansaldo Breda Railcar Manufacturing Facility. It was referred to in the CDD report. I think it was item 13 under the economic development section. It's a clean tech manufacturing center proposal. And for the record, and I see Mr. Hollis is approaching, can you refresh us as to the action the MTA board took yesterday?
Looks like a lot of jobs.
Yes, ma'am. The MTA board yesterday.
Name for the record?
I'm sorry, my name is Cal Hollis. I'm with the Redevelopment Agency. The action the MTA board took yesterday was to direct its staff to continue negotiations with Ansaldo Breda with respect to a $300 million performance guarantee that the company has offered in conjunction with the extension of their option to deliver 100 rail cars.
Okay, now it's my understanding that the site was to go out to RFP, but I also believe that last week the CRA, or Redevelopment Agency Commission, approved an exclusive negotiating agreement with Ansaldo Breda. Is that correct?
The board approved an exclusive negotiation agreement that is for a portion of the site, approximately 14 of the 20 acres, and that exclusive negotiating agreement is conditioned upon the MTA exercising its option. We have prepared an RFP, and it's been held pending the action of the MTA.
So we're in the continuum of all that. We're proposing to allocate about $1 million in CDBG recovery funds, and this situation is still not clear based on what you said. Sounds like the MTA hasn't taken its final action. Your RFP is contingent upon that final action. Please correct me if I'm stating this incorrectly. So I'm questioning the wisdom of allocating funds for a project that has not yet gone through the administrative process of approval, although they need to be spent in 120 days. And we have a sort of an either-or situation pending based on what you said in committee the other day, which is some or part, all or part of the site may be put out to RFP, but the overriding thread here is that it's contingent on MTA action. Am I right about that?
Council member, the proposed funding for this project is not contingent upon the Ansaldo Breda project. This is to provide better access to the entire 20 acres.
No, but it's contingent. Ansaldo Breda is contingent on MTA's decision. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And if we follow your logic that an ENA was approved by the board for 14 out of 20 of the acres last week?
That's correct.
So if I follow your logic, since that's an exclusive negotiating agreement, which means exclusive, leave 6 acres remaining to be put out to RFP if MTA does approve Ansaldo Breda in its final action. So they will be the majority entity on the site if MTA approves them. Correct?
That is correct. And if
So
we
then-
do not, and if the intent for that $1 million is to improve the entire project, whether Ansaldo Breda is on the property or not, we would go forward with additional acquisition to improve the usability of the property. It is not tied to the Ansaldo Breda contract.
Okay, I'll tell you what, why don't we stick around, we'll take this up in council.
Thank you.
Go into greater detail then.
And colleagues, we're going to begin our council meeting. We know a lot of folks are here for that. Thank you. This has been a meeting of the ad hoc committee. What we will do is forward with that recommendation right now, and we'll take that up. Also, one last note: this is due June 5th to HUD. We might know as early as today on some of the transit-oriented district housing funding. So if we do have the option of continuing this in council till Tuesday, which would give us time to see whether all of that money went through as well and whether some of that's freed up. So just as a point of information. And you guys can take probably about a 2-hour break because we'll be doing presentations and all that, but we'll see you back here for the full one in a little bit. Thank you. This meeting of the Ad Hoc Committee on Reinvestment and Economic Recovery is adjourned, and the council meeting will start right away. Take us straight to the. Can I start talking on here?
No. Like,
No.